I appreciate you being here. My name is Tim Slavin. I am CEO at TheShareGroup, and this is our first ROA webinar, and it's our first take on a topic that we know really well that's been very successful for us, which is downsizers. We're going to kind of give you the ins and outs of how downsizers as a market have been super effective, easy to define, and will be tremendously profitable for the realtors who tap into these sellers in the next 18 months. So we're going to cover what is a downsizer, how do you find them, why do they do it, how do you talk to them, how do you create leads out of folks who just look like they might be interested in selling. There's just a preponderance of data we're going to present today around the downsizer market so that you can see how many are in your backyard and maybe start some conversations with those folks sooner rather than later. So the headline
Okay.
here is that it's a top of funnel strategy. Everybody in this business who is successful will come to terms with the cost, the risk, the effort, and the skills to create their own pipeline, which meets their income goals. That's a lot of words, but what it really means is there are so many options from very inexpensive to very expensive ways to find sellers. And we're going to put them on your computer, in your dialer, in your CRM, so you're going to know who they are. But this is all a top of funnel strategy, which is delayed gratification, which is real strategic farming in the neighborhoods which are going to have listings. So this is
Okay.
again top of funnel. So 3 to 9 months is our target for getting these folks to list with us. It's better than circle prospecting because we're not saying people in an area should be selling. It means that there are 4 out of 10 homes which have a much higher propensity to buy. And even with the downsizers, it gets greater every day. There's a clock out there that's ticking on when they're going to sell. Guess what? Every homeowner is going to be a seller one day. It's just a matter of whether they transact with you. So we're going to build trust, identify who these folks are. And over the next 3 to 6 months, we're going to find the people that we talk to today and next week are listing in March and May and August and October. And after we have this pipeline built and it becomes more mature, we have an evergreen of listing opportunities that are surprising and wonderful in that they remember who we are. We've had 3 conversations, and instead of going to Zillow and filling out a form, they're going, hey, guess what, Tim? We're ready to go. Something just happened. We're going to have a grandkid. We want to be in Austin. Can you help us get there? Lots of exciting calls happen like that every day, but it takes effort and time to get there. So I'm going to do a quick video right here on Brandon Mulrennan, who's a great cold calling coach that is a friend of the TheShareGroup and talks about this very specific market.
Another huge, large portion, and a lot of economists are coming out saying this demographic is going to grow, is downsizers. These people that have homes that are free and clear, they raise their families, so they raise their kids. Now they're empty nesters, they're off to college. They're 65 years or older, so they're of retirement age. The home is larger than the typical average home. Oftentimes that master bedroom being on the second level, not the first level. And then being in the home for 20 years or longer, we know, oh my gosh, we know that group of people, the likelihood for those people to want to sell, get on one level, get into a ranch style condo is so high. You do the same thing that you do with circle prospecting. You go into a target market that you want to serve and you start to sort out your list and you say, okay, instead of me calling these 10,000 random homeowners, maybe I call up these 3,500 that meet this list, right? And we see dramatic changes in conversion. So much so, instead of it being 50 to 1, like circle prospecting, we see a 10 to 1. Meaning, when the agents do demographic prospecting, it takes them 10 conversations to generate a high quality lead. And so again, we've all heard work smarter, not harder. This is the best example of that. Another huge.
So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. The fact
Yes.
that the demographic prospecting is going to take you to people who have a growing propensity to list. The timing is in a window that makes sense. And all I want to know is when it's time for you to make that transaction, can we have that conversation about me interviewing to be your listing agent? So it's a downsizer is a homeowner who's 65 plus, specifically in our database. I think we're 62. They own 80% or more of the home. They've been there 15 years. They're usually empty nesters. And depending upon what part of the country you're in I'm on the Orange County coast side. A lot of them are going to the beach or the desert. They have a home. They paid $400,000 for it in 1999. It's worth 1.4 million now. They get to fund retirement, get to a home that makes sense for them for the next 10 to 15 years, and it's a lower cost and it's in a better environment for what their lifestyle is today. So they always want to get to a more convenient, lower maintenance environment, and ideally closer to friends, family, peers, and the activities which they really want to enjoy, in those senior years. So here's the crazy news. The average age, no realtor ever gets this question right. And I'm sorry that I have it up on the screen because it's a great quiz, but the average age of a seller in 2025 is now 64. I know it should be an eyebrow.
Interesting.
Elizabeth, thanks for joining. It's crazy, but can you imagine? I'm almost 62. Can you imagine half of your prospecting being 64 and older? I mean, if you're in their 30s and 40s, you're like, man, these people are old. But guess what? They're easy to identify. They're actually easy to talk to, and building trust can be done in a way that's pretty effective. So it's higher. So I'm going to talk a lot about age real quick. The same thing is happening on the buyer side. We go back to 81, the median age of a buyer was 31, and new first time 29. Now, what are we looking at? In 2024, 56 is now the average age of a buyer, and 38 is the average age of a first-time buyer. So it's getting older. We all know it's harder to save the money because the home prices are so high. And that money is going to come in the form of the sale. It's going to get passed down to the next generation of millennials who will then be buying homes. So it's going to be a cycle, a sell to the grandparents, then the kids and grandkids are going to be buying with that. Here's another statistic I like taking a look at. So first-time home buyers are now just 24% of all home buyers. So that means 75% already own a home, and that's where we're going to focus. They own a home, they have tons of equity. That gives them a lot of discretion in order to make a transaction without being dependent upon rates, okay? So by generation, this is pretty interesting. Older boomers are 70 to 80, younger boomers are 61 to 69. So if you look at this, 38 is the average age, first-time buyers. All sellers are 55, all sellers are 65. But if you look at the older boomers and younger boomers, you have 53% of the sellers, and you have 26, you have 42% of the buyers are in that younger boomer. So 61 to 80 is where more than 60 to 70% of the transactions are going to be happening. Pretty cool. So the other thing that we notice, we're going to transition to the idea of how hard is it going to be to get these downsizers to list with us? It's not that hard. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of this because only 40% of the buyers found their agent through a neighbor, relative, or friend. 51% of first-time buyers right now are using referrals. As you get older, that number goes down. So a first-time buyer is going to rely upon the network much more than an older buyer or seller because their network of professionals dwindles. Not everybody's working, not everybody's active. So that little competition means that 80%, according to NAR, 80% of the sellers pick the first agent that they meet with. You can be that first agent if you understand the people to call, the conversation to have, and how to develop that lead over time. Building trust and taking patience will get you exactly where you want to go. So some people interview, but their appetite for that is like, I trust this person. I like their strategy. We heard that last week. It's not about the realtor. It's about the strategy that they buy into. That's something to take a look at as well. We're not going to cover today, but we did last week in another webinar that we did. So this is the TheShareGroup top of funnel, atypical seller that we want to get to. How many agents did you interview? None. As a seller, I pulled this off of Reddit. I went with a guy who called me on the right day. If you call 300 people a day and you talk to 8 people a day and you get 1 lead a day, your timing is going to be right. So I don't even know when we met first, but maybe a Zillow clip or a cold call. Anyway, we met and I wasn't ready to sell. That's super important. So finding the prospect, telling them who you are, that you're a local expert, that this is exactly what your profession is all about, assisting people 60 to 75 from their primary home to their forever their vacation home, their second home, their next home. That's kind of your professional ambition. So we met, I wasn't ready to sell. You follow up. Every 3 months, the realtor called me. And then one day I was just like, okay, we need to send kids to college. We're going to pay for that college. with this equity, and we're going to get to the home that we want to live in. That's kind of what we're going for. They didn't fill out a form. They didn't go to Zillow. They weren't blind matched. They went with the person. They're recognizing the effort. We were talking about this with Coach Pipes yesterday. So cool. The people who call and prospect, even between Christmas and New Year's, the people who make that effort, they're like, wow, this realtor is really hustling. Most people are checking out, and this person is still going, still making conversations happen, and they are at home, and there is less work, and there is more downtime. So are you going to be participating in the downtime, or are you going to be taking advantage of that downtime and the access to people that are just less busy? And we know Zillow volume spikes between Christmas and New Year's. So aging owners, where we want to be. So 60 plus is 29% of adults and 40% of homeowners. 80% of these folks already own a home. It's going to be a third of the population in the next 6 years. So half of all the homeowners will be 60 plus soon. All you're doing is getting there ahead of the curve a little bit. And let me tell you, they are flush with cash. They have parents and grandparents who came out of the Depression and told them this saving mindset ethic that it can all go bad overnight and you can't be too cautious financially has resulted in a tremendous buildup of securities. And here's what I'm going to share with you. When you compare the amount of money that's held by people over the age of 70 to what it was years ago, it's now 35 trillion, which is a quarter, 27%. A quarter of the wealth in the United States is held by people over the age of 70. Their wealth, as benchmarked against the US gross national product, the total US economy, is now 157%. Everything that's sold in the United States, the amount of savings that we have is everything that's sold in the US plus 50% more. And it's doubled since 30 years ago. So these are people who have the cash to be able to sell the stock, the mutual fund, the home, and go exactly where they want to go, not dependent upon rates, but just right now stepping into that retirement and luxury lifestyle that they wanted to have, they've earned, and they saved for. And there's a whole Wall Street Journal article and conversation about this great wealth transfer that is coming. So let's talk about what's the conversation like? Why are they going to sell? They want that equity so they can fund the lifestyle and not have the big home. They want lower monthly expenses. And let's face it, the kids and the grandkids are not moving closer to us. They go where the jobs are, where the opportunity is, and building a life around your family. Maybe you, the older folks, relocating to where the kids are living today. They're not coming back to live near you. That's a treat, and it does happen once in a while, but pretty rare. So they want access to better healthcare, warmer climate, and access to the amenities and activities that make life really enjoyable, which again, they work for, they've earned, and they deserve. Now we want to get to the no. When somebody is definitely a no, the quicker you hear that, the more money you make and save in time. But they don't sell because they're fear of running out of money, even though it doesn't make sense. That their monthly payments that they haven't had because the home is paid off is like, I haven't had to have a monthly home expense. I don't even know if I could tolerate that emotionally. I certainly have the money to afford it. Is it worth it to go from a home that's paid for and has occasional and sometimes heavy repairs and maintenance to go to a place where I have a fixed monthly expense, but none of those concerns? That's a mindset shift that not every 65, 70, 75-year-old is ready to take. Certainly the fear of change, sometimes it's just spending any money, even though you've seen there's a preponderance of evidence that says they have plenty of money to be able to support the lifestyle and make this change. So they don't need to do it. They don't want to do it. That's not going to be somebody who's ready until there is a life event that says, wow, we really can't have a 2-story home anymore. Or driving isn't as important as it used to be. Or a golf cart sounds like a great way to get around the neighborhood instead of driving the car into town. So the seller snapshot, 26% of these buyers paid cash, which is the highest it's ever been. I told you they had money, and this is proof of that. The top reasons for selling: move closer, home is too small. Some people are still, they look like downsizers, but they buy a bigger home because they have that money. They're like, might as well spend it now. The home is too big. That often happens, but getting right sized for where you want to be makes a lot of sense. Neighborhood declining. Declining for a lot of people is all of our families that we grew up with. We're the last neighbor, we're the last person in the neighborhood that hasn't moved out. And it's new families that are 20 years, 25 years younger than you, and you don't feel that fit. And that's certainly what my wife and I went through about 7 years ago. We saw our whole neighborhood, from the people that used to sit at the end of the driveway in the cul-de-sac and watch the kids on the bikes and scooters and stuff. And it turned into a completely different neighborhood. We're like, it just doesn't fit for us anymore. And that just makes sense. Over 20 years, there's going to be a lot of change. And either it makes sense to you or you want to get closer to your peers, family, and the types of activities that you really want to enjoy, 60, 65 plus. Let's talk about these seller insights. The sellers most likely to downsize, 70 plus. The older you are, the more likely it's going to happen. Get closer to family and the home's too large. Number one and number two reasons there. They all own homes, 80% of them, and then reluctance to sell. Here's I'm going to focus on 17 said they've already done it. They plan to sell or they've already sold. 27 might sell, 56%, but this used to be 82. So the idea of warming up to a assisted or a community or a 55 plus community makes more and more sense as this generation gets older and older. That's a big change. So half of your listing prospecting should be from people that are over the age of 64. We can take you right to that data and show you who you should be calling. 75% of these buyers already own a home, so they have the equity to be able to spend and move to the next home. We know that 60% of these buyers will not use a realtor from a friend, family, or relative. That means they're going to talk to you because you're calling them and having that conversation. And 70% of these are going to pick the first agent they meet with. So this is relationship warm-up time, go time right now. 5,000, 10,000 leads, a dialer that makes 3 to 10 dials at a time to connect you with live people. We're going to talk about getting those folks on the phone and how you make it happen. So in conclusion, there's seller mindset that we're now aware of. We know the motivation for them to move. You can entice them with that conversation. 47% of these at 61 plus are open to selling. And the tenure now average tenure rose from 6 to 10 years. Average is now 16 years in terms of how many years they've been in that home. So there are 9 million downsizers in the United States. I'm going to show some markets for you. So typically you're going to find between 16 and 20% of the homeowners in your neighborhood are downsizers. There are some that are even better than that. If you go 70 plus age and 15 years in the home and own it free and clear, you can see suburban Kansas City, 12,000 in one county, Portland, 12,000. There's just thousands and thousands of these folks who are going to sell and should list with you.
So let me ask you, I'm sorry to interrupt, but so do you do it in RPR or how do you find these people?
Oh, okay. That's a great question. The TheShareGroup has 3 databases that are connected. I have every homeowner. That means name, address, city, state, zip, phone, cell phone, email, hobbies, activities, and interests. I know the details of their mortgage and their property. So all 3 of those are connected. With that information in front of me, I can tell you how old they are, how much they own in the home, how big the home is, how long they've lived there, all of that essential data to do the demographic profiling to get you to the very best seller opportunities. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. And there are some massive. So I pulled every downsizer and said, what are the biggest zip codes for downsizers and how many are there? So 4,001 zip code. Some were surprising. Brooklyn is big, El Paso, Wheeling, West Virginia, Brownsville, Texas, Chicago, Illinois. There are pockets that are just really, really big in terms of total number within a zip code. And the next thing to look at is which ones have the highest concentration of downsizers. Where would that be? So I told you the average is about 16 to 20%. In some places, it's over 30%. All of these markets, which don't look unique or distinguished in any way other than this specific characteristic, which you would know when you look inside our data. So Pennsylvania, Mississippi, Wisconsin, it's all over the map. And these are tremendously successful zips to talk to the downsizers in. So to level set, this downsizer market is easily identified. It's approachable. They don't like high tech. They still have landlines and cell phones. You can call them and they'll answer the phone and they'll talk to a real person. And that will make sense when I get into more about kind of how the outreach goes. So in our partnership with Realty of America, so Mark Demas, Eddie Garcia, those are the guys that I met a year and a half ago, and we finally have our own lead store that we created. This is the link to go to get to the ROA lead store. And I'll give you an example of kind of what one of those storefronts looks like so you can see exactly what the counts are. But this is where you sign up for your free account. You go to this link, fill out that information, and then it will immediately take you to your zip code, and you can see the number of downsizers that are in each zip code in the markets that you really like to work. Any questions there so far? And Elizabeth, thanks for joining us as well. So there's 3 ways to do outreach to these folks. Number 1, and the best, is telephone prospecting. It's a personal connection. They are available at home during the day. They appreciate politeness, patience, respect, and the personal touch. My 30-year-old realtors who are selling to downsizers are having 1 or 2 phone calls of introduction and say, I'd like to drop off a CMA. And they get to shake hands and see that the person is real, that their intent is sincere, and that their patience is generous. The patience is generous part means that you've heard commission breath. I hate that, but we're here to build a relationship and support them and help them get the home ready and make that transition to their ideal next living space. I love that. And that face-to-face meeting really secures the listing. And then after you've had that connection, it's just about a follow-up and check-in and how you doing and Merry Christmas and hope you had a great New Year's. Those kind of really gentle touches. Conversation with these downsizers. So the pattern interrupt, the curious opener, you'll get that from Brandon Morenan's video. We really like that. But pattern interrupt is anything but, Bill, hi, this is Tim. I'm a local realtor. So we're going to do something completely different. Not today, but you'll understand how you can open a conversation and keep them curious and invite them to hang up on you if they want to, because we really don't care what happens. We're ready to listen. We're going to take on these irrational fears. We're going to help them get to where they want to go and be ready to act, because there can be something happens physically in their family or someplace else in their family that says, now would be a great time for us to be nearer them because this is an important stage of life and we should have done this a long time ago, but now we don't have a choice. So let's make it happen. We've had people put elevators on the sides of homes just to extend that primary residence usability for years and years. But moving is generally a great idea when you're at that stage. So pros and cons, we have to understand if we leave that home to our kids versus selling it, understanding the difference between that and helping them make that decision, super important. Number 2, direct mail. Direct mail still works. And when you think about a home value that's 500,000 plus, makes sense. $1 million plus makes a lot of sense. $1.5 million, $2 million, you can mail them a lot. It's easier to get an ROI off that direct mail when your transactional cost, your commission's $10,000 to $15,000, per deal. So it's best for the first contact. It is more expensive. It's slower feedback, but they will call you. They'll have name familiarity. They like seeing your face on the postcard and then your face at their doorstep after you've had that conversation. All of that is a great strategy. If you can invest in the market so they see who you are and what your role is in helping them get to a better place, I think the door opens wide for you. I think email is least effective because of the scams, spoofs, and way that can be easily misdirected. We just like the personal touch, direct call, and postcards as being really reliable and have a higher degree of trust than what you would get from an email. Sometimes you can say, like, how much effort. I've alluded to the idea of 3.5 hours a day and having 5 to 8 really good conversations per day, generating that number of leads. So we have a worksheet, and it's part of our Downsizer pack. If you'd like, I can send you this worksheet, which will allow you to put in dials per day, how many contacts you think you're going to make out of that. This is a 6% contact rate. How many days a week are you going to do cold calling? How many days? So you take all of that and you go, I want to be able to see my dials per day as a predictable commission income, as something that gives me the benchmark for how I'm going to be successful. We find that 50 calls a day is going to give you 14 deals. 100 dials a day could give you 29 deals in a year. Think about that. It really adds up. And we have a worksheet that you can punch in your own numbers and change the assumptions around that and look at the outcome that you're going to get. We have a Downsizer toolkit for you and for everybody else at ROA, but there's clips and videos on the downsizing market phenomena and how to take advantage of that. Cold calling tips. We also have the number of downsizers in your county. So by zip code, you can stack rank all of the zip codes that are in your county and then go look at the ones that are most profitable for you. We have a calls to closes calculator. We have downsizing scripts. We'll send you all of that to help you get started. We'll do one-on-one chats with you as well. This all happens through a store. I'm gonna pivot over to a store right now. and show you real quick what that looks like.
Yeah, I've got the ROA start up if you want me to.
Okay, I think we're good. I'm just gonna pop right into. I love the desert, so I'm gonna show everybody what the downsizers look like out in Indio, California, which is where they have Coachella and those types of things. But 6,800 homes in that zip code. Any zip code works here. There are 1,330 that are non-owner occupied. Those are great. Downsizer 616. So it's easy to pop around and see kind of where are the better pockets. And like I said, we can give you a detailed report by county showing you how many downsizers are in the market around you. These leads on the ROA SOAR are sold in what we call just blocks of leads. We don't do a subscription. Subscriptions are great for us. They're not so good for you. We charge you every month. Maybe you use it, maybe you don't. So we decided to do something different. We said we're not going to sell subscriptions. We're going to tell you that you're going to buy lead credits. The more you buy, the less you pay per lead. Those lead credits are purchased in this wallet page. So 10,000 leads, $1,400. You click buy now, and your wallet balance is updated to the 10,000 leads. With those leads in your pocket, you can go into the store, buy the leads. You can include do not call. You can remove do not call. You can find mortgage leads. You can do a custom recipe based on your own age, income, length of residence, home value, any of that data. We can do a custom recipe together. You can also look up individual people who owns that home, who's this email address tied to, whose phone number is here. So you can do verification on inbound data to see if it checks out. You can also do skip tracing. So you can take a public list of a mailing list, and we'll give you the phones and the emails of those folks. All of these services are done and transacted through the wallet. So people look up skip tracing, lead download, all of that uses the credits. You have 1 year to use those credits. The real secret behind the wallet is that I don't want you downloading leads before you're ready to use them. So I update my phones and my emails every week. And that means that I want you to download the leads on Monday that you're going to call over the next 3 weeks, because that will be the highest quality. And then when you actually go through all those leads, find the ones that are interested in chatting with you, you need more, you come in, you get more. But if they don't do any good, if they're sitting on your laptop, sitting in your CRM and not getting work, you might as well stay in my database until you're ready to use them. And that's kind of our approach to making certain you get the highest contact rate possible. One other thing that we do, which is unique, we have a phone quality guarantee. That means that if you have a disconnected phone or no longer in service, all you have to do is go, Elizabeth says, hey, Tim, I called 3,000 phone numbers over the past month, and I have 400 phones that were disconnected or no longer in service. I go right into your account and I go 400. I add those credits back in. You go find new leads and keep working. So we're the only company out there that's selling without a subscription and with a phone quality guarantee. And we're happy to support your success just any way that we possibly can. At this point, I think it's a good place to wrap up. We've covered exactly who the downsizers are, why I think it's an attractive segment, the best way to contact them, how to find out how many are in your market, and how to get started getting leads to work for you for that top of funnel strategy. So this is absolutely the right time of year to clarify a new funnel that's going to be productive for you starting April 1 and for the rest of your career. And as long as you make those calls, that's going to happen for you. So I appreciate you joining us. Drew, thanks for being here. My sidekick, Chief Marketing Officer at TheShareGroup, couldn't do it without you. Thanks for being here. We're going to wrap it up here, and we'll come up with the next a new topic for everybody in January. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Very, very good. Thanks, Amit.
Thanks, you bet.
All right.
Thanks, Tim.
You bet.